Hi guys, I'm October, but you can call me Toby. Thanks for coming to spend some time with me. For today's video, I thought I would get into the spooky spirit and paint some pumpkins for Halloween. It's October now, and I wanted to do some October themed or Halloween themed videos. And I thought I'd start off with something a little simpler. Generally people carve pumpkins, but that's not typically done here in Australia, so I figured the next best thing would be painting some. I picked up an assortment of plaster pumpkins. This one is hollow, and I got it from Kmart. It's a bit bigger than the others. And the other ones are two different sets, which I got from Bunnings. And they came in these little Halloween craft kits, including two of the pumpkins, some paint and basic paintbrushes. I will not be using this paint or these paintbrushes. And while I don't mind a couple of the pumpkins, I think I want to alter them to make them look a little more classic. So this big one's very classic. There's no face on it or anything. I'm really liking that. I love the leaf on this one and the shape of the pumpkin, but this face is just not doing it for me. Nor is this one. Again, I love the leaf. I love that it's a different shape. It's a taller pumpkin, but yeah, just not into these faces. I adore the witch's hat and how little the pumpkin is, but I don't understand why they did that with the eyes. Otherwise, I probably would have just painted this as is. And this one, I don't know where they were going. Were they thinking like scarecrow or something? Because these are solid and they did all this hair. So I'm not really sure what I'll do with this one, because it would take a lot of effort to sand back or like chip off all this hair. Otherwise I would have like just left this as was if it wasn't covered in all this hair, but I'm not sure if I'll have time to do something with this one or not. I may just end up leaving it, but I did love the hat on this one, and it had the face I liked the most as well. The only one I have a clear picture of what I want to do with it is this large one, so let's get started with that one. For this project today, I'll be using these Creative Place paints and just a Montmartre paintbrush. Or a couple of paintbrushes. To get started with this large pumpkin, I'm going to be using ultramarine blue and black. So I want to create like something heading towards navy. The ultramarine's a little bright for my taste at the moment, so I'm going to dull it out and darken it with some black. And thinking about it, I think I will actually do this little stalk black to start with, just pure black. So let's paint that first, and then I will mix my colours and do the first layer of the pumpkin. I haven't really painted plaster very often. I can't really remember the last time I honestly painted plaster, but the black's going on really nicely, so hopefully all of my colours will go on well and it won't take a gazillion coats for some of the lighter colours like yellow and things if I use them, but I guess we'll see. Alright, let's mix up this blue now and get into the painting of this first pumpkin. I don't think this is quite as dark as I want it to be, but I do think this will take a couple layers at least to get it nice and opaque, so I'm not too worried right now that this isn't quite as dark as I want. I can always darken it up a little bit more later. I was thinking about like trying to carve a pumpkin, because I've never ever done that. It's not generally done here in Australia as far as I know. Like, I don't know anyone that carves pumpkins. It might be that we're hitting kind of quite hot weather coming up to Halloween, and you don't really want a vegetable sitting out in the heat going rotten. The other thing I don't think would go down very well with carving a pumpkin and putting it out for a month or so is that we have possums here. They're not the super cute ones, but they're nice enough little critters and they keep to themselves generally. But I do imagine having pumpkins out, carved or otherwise, would attract more of them because they'd want to eat them potentially. I don't really understand how it doesn't attract wildlife and stuff to come and eat it in America. Perhaps if any of my viewers are American, perhaps you can tell me, like, do you not get, I don't know, nighttime critters or just wildlife in general coming and trying to eat the pumpkins? And why not, if not? But anyway, this first coat is mostly done for now. I won't paint right on the bottom because I'll need this to dry. I'll come back and do that later. But you can see this isn't super opaque. The plaster is actually like sucking up the paint really quickly. And it's not going on as smoothly as I would like. Yeah, you can see how streaky this looks. I'm definitely going to have to do at least a few coats to get this nice and opaque. Okay, while that dries, I think I have an idea of what I want to do with some of the others, so let's get rid of those faces. Okay, so because these are plaster, I'm going to use this air dry clay, and I know that I definitely don't like the faces on these ones, so what I'm going to do is cover up those faces. Let's see how this applies. And that did not stick at all. Alright, I'm going to give these a little bit of texture just to give the air dry clay something to stick to. I'm just noticing these dimples on this one as well. I hadn't noticed them in the first instance. I'm going to try and shave the dimple off just with the palette knife. Just really gently and carefully kind of shaving that off, smoothing it down so that it's not such an obvious lump. Luckily the plaster is fairly workable for removing parts. Alright, dimples are gone. I'm just going to add some water directly onto the plaster here where I'm going to apply this clay, just in hopes that it'll help the clay stick and the plaster won't just suck all of the water straight out of the clay, since it seemed to just suck the water straight out of my paints and dry them out. And the clay is kind of sticking better now that I've wet the plaster and roughed it up a bit. I'm not sure how smooth I'll be able to get this. I might try adding a bit of water on top in a minute, see if I can smooth it out without it just kind of flaking off. Packaging of the air dry clay said you do not need to add water to it, but it's not dry per se, but I don't think it's in the best shape to be sort of smoothed out like this. Yeah, I can only smooth this to a certain degree before it kind of just flakes off, so... Alright, let's add some water to this before I kind of just like flake it all off again. And that is much easier to smooth if it's wet, so yeah, I think the trick will be to give it a rough texture to adhere to, fill the holes, and then wet them down and smooth it out as best I can. Ideally you won't be able to tell that there were faces on these to start with. I just want to have some clean looking pumpkins that I can paint however I please once they're dry. And fingers crossed this doesn't take ages to dry since I'm not adding that much air dry clay. Okay, that's looking well covered at least. I mean I haven't like followed the grooves of the pumpkin very well, but I'm sure I can resolve that a bit later. I'm going to do the next one and just follow that same process. Rough up the pumpkin, fill it in with the clay, and then smooth it all out by adding water on top. That's 3 down. This one. If I do anything with this one, I'm gonna have to like either apply a lot of clay or remove a lot of plaster. So well, I've got this whole heap of clay here and I've already got messy hands, so let's see if I can do anything with this by covering up the whole face and, I don't know, maybe smoothing out the hair. Perhaps I can turn this into just a fatter pumpkin by shaping it afterwards. Okay, I've kind of got this to like a roundish shape now, like a lump with a hat rather than a weird scruffily haired pumpkin head thing. And looking at this, the rest are pumpkins, but I think I might change this one up and do another classic character featured in everything Halloween and turn this into a ghost with a little witch's hat on. Since I've already bulked it up so much with clay anyway, I figure I can just take these couple little bits and add some little arms, and once this first sort of layer dries, I'll come back and add in the folds of like the sheet, because I want this to be like a sheet ghost. So in my head this is a pumpkin wearing a sheet for Halloween, sort of, but I guess not really because it has arms. I don't know, it's going to be a sheet ghost. So I'll pop these little arms on and come back later and do another layer of clay once this one dries, and in that layer I'll add on more definition to make this look like a sheet. I don't know if I'll have time to paint 4 pumpkins as well as letting this dry fully to paint it, so we'll see how I go with getting the ghostie done, but I'm excited by this idea. I think it'll be really cute. The hat is so cute and it just seems a waste to turn it into just another pumpkin with a hat. Like, I'm worried that if I try and shape it into a pumpkin it's gonna end up obscenely big and the hat's gonna look silly and small on top. So yeah, I'd rather make something else cute out of it. We'll see if I can get the ghost done in this video too. Here we go, 2 little arms. I'll leave this guy to dry. I've added, looking at it actually, maybe I should add some more bulk to around the base, because it's not going to be like a round ghost, it's going to be a sheet, so I want it to sort of fall flat. So I think I'll bulk out that base with some more clay, and then I'll leave this to dry. Alright, there we go. I'll just smooth everything out as best I can before I put this down, but you can see that I have added bulk all around the base so that it's kind of a straighter fall from that midsection to the floor. You can see how much clay I've had to add to do that, and I'm not sure how long this will take to dry, but I think this will look really good in the end, if I can get it done in this video. I'm going to get started on these others, so still a touch unsure exactly what I want to do with them right now, but I know that I want these stalks to be brown, so let's just get some colour on and get these brown. I wouldn't mind doing like a semi-realistic looking pumpkin, so you know, the orange pumpkin, and I like the height of this one, so maybe this one can be a more realistic looking pumpkin. I did just want to show you how the spots are looking that I covered up with the air dry clay. Now I have sanded these just a little bit, but yeah, they're looking pretty smooth. It's not, you can kind of see where the faces were, but it's not super obvious, so I think that's turned out rather well. Okay, I've decided I do like the idea of a more natural pumpkin, so I'm going to use Scarlet Lake, Cadmium Yellow Hue and Ultramarine Blue, because I want to stay in the same sort of colour families for all of the pumpkins if I can. So these are probably like my 3 base colours I'll be using to mix all my others. Now I know I want a green leaf on this one, so that's where I'm going to start, and in doing that, if I like this green enough, I might actually use it on the witchy pumpkin, because I think making that pumpkin green would be pretty cute. So we'll just see how this colour turns out. Okay, let's see how this looks on the plaster. So this is looking pretty dark. The plaster is soaking up that paint pretty quickly. It's going to take a few coats to get nice and opaque, I think. I also just want to coat this leaf in this colour, and I can add some other like lighter green tones or darker green tones later if I decide that that would look better. I am liking the depth of this green, so I think I will go ahead and apply this to my witchy pumpkin as well. So from the get-go I sort of thought it would be fun to do this pumpkin green, simply because, you know, playing on the trope of witches being green. If I was going to add a face, I think I'd add like a nice hooked nose. Alright, I'll finish this up and move on. This yellow is going on okay, especially given that I want to have this look kind of streaky and not a really even colour. I think the way that the plaster soaks up the paint might work best for this one. Alright, that's coated in yellow. Interesting how some spots are really patchy, and I'm not sure if those are the spots where I put the air dry clay or not, but this is what it's looking like at the moment, and I honestly really like this colour, but it's definitely not how I want this to look as a final piece, but I really love the look of yellow pumpkin. While the yellow base layer was drying, I did another coat on the blue pumpkin, so that one's, the colour's looking a lot darker there in the background, you can see, and it's a lot more opaque. I think it's just letting that dry, seeing how dark it gets when it dries, and deciding if I want to lighten it up at all before I move on with that one. And this one, I'll just add this orange layer and see what I'm thinking at that point, where I want to go with it. I'm not using a reference for this one, I'm kind of just going off the image of a pumpkin I have in my head. Okay, the realistic looking pumpkin is, yeah, I'm quite liking the orange over the yellow. I think that was a good call. Definitely is a little too streaky, but honestly I'm really liking how it's looking at the moment. So I've just got to think on that and decide what I want to do with that. In the meantime, I have decided I do want to do pastels on this little rounder pumpkin. So I'm just going to mix up 3 of my favourite sort of pastel tones at the moment, which is a pink, a blue and a green. So I'll mix up these colours, and I think I'm going to sort of dab these on. I don't want to like have paint strokes of this. I don't want it to look really messy, so I'm thinking of making it look kind of like clouds of colour that interact and overlap a little bit is what I'm picturing. And yeah, we'll see how that looks, how these go on and how many coats that's going to take. I'm going to do a layer of white first on this one, just because I don't want it to be a gazillion layers of these pastel colours. I'm worried like about how transparent they might go on, how much the plaster might just suck up the paint and make it look real patchy. So I figured going in with a layer of white will, one, do a base coat so that the plaster's not just soaking up the paints on me, and two, provide like kind of a wet layer so that I can get these colours to go on softly and smoothly, and if I'm quick enough they might do a little bit of like nice blending, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know, the plaster's pretty quick to soak up and dry out these paints with the first layers, so I don't know how much it's going to help with blending, but at least it might help a little bit with opacity. I kind of wish I'd done a white layer on everything before I started, but you know, you live and you learn, so we'll do it on this one. Alright, I've left everything and come back. A quick check-in. I've done some work off camera, so I've done another couple layers on this one. Stem is still black, but the blue is nice and opaque, it's not splotchy. This pumpkin went far more orange than I intended it to. I really liked how the second layer looked, but I wanted a little bit more opaque with the orange, and it's kind of gone too far now. The green's looking gorgeous. I love the depth, like how dark this green is under that hat. Not sure what colour I'll do the hat yet. And I did a second layer on my pastels, and I mixed up thinking I would do the leaf in a lavender because purple is one of my other favourite colours, and I ended up making this periwinkle, which I used for the veins of the leaf and kind of the undersides and stuff where there might be a little bit of shadow, and I really love how that's come out. Like I didn't realise I liked that colour that much, but I love it. And Ghostie is almost dry at this point, like he's mostly dry at this point, so you can see where I'm pressing my nail and it's still leaving a mark. So the outer layer there feels fairly dry, but it's not dry right through just yet. A little bit of cracking, nothing that can't be fixed, because I'm going to add more clay on top of this to get like the folds that you see in material. Like if you drape a sheet over something tall, the way it falls, there's always folds, so I wanted to add some of those in. So I'll be doing some more air dry clay anyway, but I'm going to give him a little more time to dry before I add more on top. Coming back to the natural looking pumpkin, I've gone too far orange and not really sure how to correct that at this point, but I'm just going to tidy up the bottom and have a think about that. Okay, I would definitely like to lighten this up a bit more. At least the colour's nice and consistent. I did want it to look kind of like streaky, like natural pumpkins do, but yeah, I'm not really sure at the moment what I'm going to do with that. I do like the colours, the orange and the green on it, so maybe I'll kind of leave it in this more generic looking pumpkin colour. Okay, I do know now that my blue pumpkin is nice and dry and it's very opaque, I wanted to add on top of this one of these metallics. So I've got silver, bronze and a copper, and I've got gold, and I'm tempted with the copper, honestly, because like that on that dark blue is just, that would be pretty stunning. But I think I'm going to go with gold. I had gold in my mind from the start, so I want to try gold out. And my thinking was to do kind of what looks like cracks all over this pumpkin in the gold. This might be a bit of an Easter egg for something I want to do for a future video, something I have planned, but yeah, my thinking is sort of to make it look like the pumpkin's broken and been mended with gold. I definitely know, and the reason why I did the stalk black was to give myself a nice dark base to go under the gold. Okay, the stalk is done and I can't procrastinate anymore on making the first mark on this. So in my head, they're a mixture of like fine and thick lines, and I'm pretty nervous to start this because I'm just worried I'll stuff it up. I'm coming to realize my paint's kind of chunky, but if I water it down it's going to get more transparent, so I'm not really too sure. I guess I'm just going to try and work with it as it is. So I wanted the cracking and stuff to look a bit organic, and I'm not sure how to replicate that. Like, do I just want to do a couple spots of it, or do I want to cover the whole thing? This is how it's looking right now. My favorite part, honestly, is the like swirls I've added. I'm not overall loving it, but I don't hate it either. So I'm going to sleep on this one and see if I like it any better tomorrow, and then decide what I want to do from that point. I have made a decision on the witch's hat, so I was a bit dubious as to what I wanted to do colour-wise with that since the green's so dark, but I love the periwinkle and the lavender so much. I'm going to mix up some of the blue and red and make a really dark colour for that band, and then I'm just going to add white to it until I'm happy with the colour and paint the rest of the hat. And you may notice that I have painted over the blue pumpkin. The gold cracking look is gone. I just wasn't happy enough with it. I did try like cleaning up some of the cracks to see if I liked it. With finer lines, it's going to take multiple layers of blue to cover the gold, and I just don't like it enough to put that amount of effort into it. So I've just covered it in blue again, and I'm going to try a different pattern on there and see if I like that better. So I settled on this tone of the lavender periwinkle colouring. Look how cute it looks. Right now I think this is my favourite pumpkin. So the blue pumpkin took quite a while, and I put it into a little montage for you. So on the left you can see my second attempt where I found the gold paint was coming out way too thick, so I moved to a border based paint marker which was going on much more smoothly but was a different colour. So then I realised I'd have to cover that with the other paint if I wanted them to match up, and I just wasn't happy with the outcome of that one. My third attempt, after doing a few more layers of blue to cover up the second attempt, went much better. I just redid the whole thing with the paint marker, and I left a lot more space in that one, so I was a lot more happy with how that turned out. Okay, here's how it is looking. I actually love all the little like bits that I added. There are a couple spots where I need to just redo the blue a little bit. I love that there's a bit more space. It's not so messy looking with too much going on top of it. So I'll tidy up that blue once I'm sure the gold's all dried, and then this one will get a varnish as well. And in the meantime, I'll do some more work on the natural looking pumpkin, which is actually giving me the most trouble, surprisingly, since I thought it'd be the easiest. But boy was I wrong. I don't even know what layer I'm on with that one currently. So I'll do another little montage of all the different layers I've done for this one. The little ghosty guy is actually really dry at this point. You can actually see some cracking happening here on the bottom. So I figured at this point, while I'm waiting for the orange pumpkin to dry and I've got my varnish done on pastel pumpkin and witchy pumpkin, they're completely done at this point. And I've done another layer on the blue pumpkin. Now I'm at the point where I can do a bit more work on the ghosty guy. So I'm going to get out some more air dry clay, and I don't know, I figure I'm just going to kind of add splotches of clay and shape them into sort of wavy curves. I don't want them to be too symmetrical. I don't want too many of them. I'm just trying to think, like, given the little arms are raised, how would material drape from the arm? And yeah, I don't want to do too many sort of drapey bits everywhere, but I'm just going to add a few in on the front and on the back and try and make it look like it is material flowing over whatever is under this, which we know is a pumpkin, but you know, when it's done, you won't be able to tell there was a pumpkin under there. Really happy with how the front is looking at this point. I've left it like a fair bit of space in the middle there because I'm conscious I'm going to draw a face there. So I didn't want too many like curves and stuff happening additionally. And I'm going to move on to the back and just do the same thing. I'm not going to make it symmetrical or anything. I'm just going to keep going with the kind of random blobs of clay being added and then smushed around until they're in a shape I like. I did more sort of falls of the material on the back because I don't have to draw a face on there. So yeah, I'm liking how this is looking. I'll probably just smooth it out a little bit more, move these odd little bits of clay that are here and there, and try and make sure the hat and everything stays nice and smooth. Here is Ghostie Boy. He is as done as I'm going to get him for now. I'm out of time for this video, unfortunately, and you can see he definitely needs a lot of sanding and drying time before he can even be painted, but I'm so happy I got any progress made on him. And I have an idea for another video that relates pretty closely to Ghostie Boy, so he will be back later on in October and you'll be able to see him all finished. And now it's time for the final shots. The blue and gold pumpkin. I love how this turned out. My favourite angle of this is from the top down, but I'm so glad I spaced everything out a bit more and simplified the design. The pastel pumpkin came out so cute. The colours are so soft. It really does just give me pastel cloud vibes, and I'm so glad I found a new favourite colour in periwinkle. The witchy pumpkin. This one is kind of classic with the purple and green vibes. Very Halloweeny, I think, and I love the contrast of the deep green and the bright purple. So happy with the colours I got on this hat, how dark that band is and what a beautiful colour it came out, and how nice the periwinkle looks with the shading and in contrast to the green. And the one I'm most excited to show you is this natural pumpkin. It took a lot of work and I don't know how many layers of paint, but finally after some work off camera, I got it looking like this, and it's just looking wonderful. I love the contrast of how sort of cartoony the leaf looks against the more natural vibes of the pumpkin, and yeah, I'm so happy with this one. I may have run out into the house to show everyone when I got this one finally looking how I wanted. That's how happy I was. And I do love that the colours work together for these three. So the leaf has the periwinkle, which is in the hat, and the witchy pumpkin is green, which matches the leaf of the natural looking one. So that's really nice. It's like they're a little set. And then the blue and gold pumpkin is just, you know, a bystander, not to be displayed with the others. Quite different in its look and appeal. Let me know what you think. Which one's your favourite? Was there a point during the blue and gold that you thought was better than the one I chose in the end? Hopefully I'll see you next week for some more spooky October content, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!